True Story Media.
Hey, it's Sterling K. Brown from the Hulu original series Paradise. The next chapter begins as Xavier's search for his wife takes him above ground, and what he finds will change everything. It was never just about the bunker. Tune in and discover the truth lies outside. Paradise, the official podcast, is now streaming, and stream Paradise on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+.
The episode that you're about to hear is part 3, and if you haven't listened to the first 2, I'd suggest you start there. And also, if you don't like, lots of language and really dark topics, this one's not for you. So you've been warned. All right, let's play the episode. For the past 5 years, Patrick Tomlinson and his wife Nikki have been living a complete nightmare. The Milwaukee police have swatted their house more than 40 times. But eventually, the swatting wasn't funny enough for these pests.
We've come to find out that it's not just the swattings. There have been at least half a dozen bomb threats that were called in by our stalkers that we know about. December 10th of last year, there was Patti LaBelle was performing at the Riverside Theater here in Milwaukee.
Patti LaBelle's security staff rushed her off the stage because someone called in a bomb threat using Patrick's name.
It made national news because she got 2 songs in and then she was rushed off the stage because of a bomb threat. 2,000 people were evacuated. Like 6 blocks of downtown Milwaukee were shut down. We came to find out later that night, because we'd already been swatted twice that day. Well, police came out a third time at midnight.
I developed PTSD after this particular day because it was just it was insane.
It was one thing after the other.
It was so insane. They shut off sometimes they'll call for a gas leak too. So, they shut off our gas in the middle of winter. So I'm trying to get the gas turned on. The police are there. Earlier, then later, this detective shows up and it was. And this detective shows up at midnight that night after we'd already had cops out to the house twice that day, wakes us up again. And I'm like, guys, you have to stop coming out here. This is insane. This is ridiculous. And he's like, it's not that this time. You may have heard about the Riverside getting evacuated. Well, they used your name in that call.
The feud between Patrick and the Pests is not showing any signs of slowing down. Today, we're going to try to answer the question, who are these guys and what do they want? I'm Javier Leyva, and this is Pretend, stories about real people pretending to be someone else. So I've been trying to simplify how I get dressed in the morning. I don't want to think about it too much, Just grab something, throw it on, and know that it's going to work. That's kind of what I love about Quince. They've got everyday essentials down. Organic cotton sweaters, polos for pretty much any occasion, lighter jackets that actually keep you warm when the weather's doing that weird in-between thing, All the basics, but they actually hold up. Here's the thing. Quince works directly with top factories and cuts down the middleman. So you're not paying for brand markups. Just quality clothing that's built to last and still look good season after season. Plus, they only partner with factories that meet rigorous standards for craftsmanship and ethical production. The wool coat that I picked up is honestly holding up way better than any other coat I've bought that costs way more. It looks good, it keeps me warm, and it didn't break the bank. Refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/pretendpod for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/pretendpod. One word. They've gone after Patrick, Nikki, even Patti LaBelle was tangled up in this mess.
And then they made a bomb threat last April against a hotel where that was hosting a convention that I was speaking at. They did that to disrupt.
That was Detroit.
That was Detroit, yeah.
Detroit.
They did that to disrupt the convention. Their bomb-sniffing dogs had to come out for that one. Just a few weeks ago on the Brewers home opener, they called in a bomb threat a few hours after the game was over because we go to the home opener every year. So they called.
There's just a lot of things that they know about us too that we can't. I mean, we go to the Brewers opening day every year. It's like my favorite holiday.
How does this end?
With us dead or them in prison. It doesn't end any other way.
They think that they are untouchable because it's gone on so long. They've just been more and more invigorated, to do more the more they get away with. So,
and at every step of the way, whenever we've reached out for help through law enforcement, through the justice system, they have been rewarded.
Yep.
Like, I know why you're going public. Like, I get it, because like even your Twitter says, well, silence didn't work, so now we're going public. And I get it, but I also kind of see this as like, oh no, here we go again. It's like, are we rewarding them?
No, they want us to suffer in silence. And the only way they want to isolate us, they want to take us out off the playing field. And no, the only way to solve this is to engage with the public, educate the public, and bring more pressure.
And we have to, because our situation is on the extreme side of things, but people, they are doing this to lots of other people who have no recourse,
platform.
Yeah, no platform. I mean, they go after like Black people, trans people, whatever, and they'll go after young people who are just like, like a Black artist who's out on Twitter trying to like share their work, and they'll just mass report them into oblivion, and they'll never be able to do what they want to do on the internet with their work.
Oh,
well, 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, we got swatted 7 times in 36 hours. And 2 of those police responses were violent. One was assault rifles. I was home alone, and we have this extensive security system we've spent thousands of dollars on because of this. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't see them on the cameras. So I'm calling him like, I can't see them. Are they here? Because all I can see is this flashlight. And they had banged on the door.
I'm upstairs. I'm in here. Hello, can you?
Yes, can you just come downstairs so we can see you're okay, and that's it.
And he's like, yeah, they're here. They have guns.
Just everything is fine, okay?
We need to see you before we can leave.
I'm trying to talk to them through the camera, and I'm like, I'm coming down, it's fine. And I have to come down with my hands up.
We don't have any guns in our hands.
No. No. Why are you here?
We were called here for a shooting.
Okay, dude, this is the 4th time today.
I understand.
Okay, no.
We still have to come here and do our
job. Okay, but look, I couldn't see you on the cameras. So I'm seeing flashlights and shit, and I don't know if you have guns and stuff. These people are trying to fucking kill us.
We said Milwaukee police.
And then the next morning, a different sergeant tried to kick in our door because we refused to come down and come out.
Has anybody actually kicked through your door?
No, but they have illegally searched our house like a number of times.
No, you're not coming in. You're absolutely not coming in. My wife is fine. You already saw her. You already talked to her. No, you don't. You do not have problem. You do not. You do not have problem.
You saw me. You saw me. I'm right here and I'm fine. I am fine.
No.
I am fine.
She is not coming out. You do not have a... You are not... She is not coming out. You do not have a warrant. You do not have probable cause.
You don't have probable cause because you know the call is fucking fake.
This sergeant who the following morning, attempted to break our door down, he'd been at the house like 3 weeks earlier. He knew the situation. He'd already talked to Nikki.
Yeah.
He knew we were being swatted. And he came up again and was like, open the door. I'm going to kick it down. I have to search the place. I'm like, no, you don't have probable cause. You don't have a warrant. You know this situation is bogus. You're not entering our fucking house.
So is this one harasser? Are there hundreds of harassers? There's really no way of knowing, but Patrick says that he's narrowed it down to a handful of people, including the man that they believe runs the forum.
The idea was to bring a lawsuit to identify who they are, and then we can sue them civilly because of defamation and
or
everything else,
or even turn them over to their local law enforcement so that they could face criminal charges.
Right.
Because we were literally told by law enforcement, it's like, well, without names, we can't do anything. So we went out to try and do their fucking jobs for them and get names of these people.
And that's what they did. In 2021, Patrick and his wife, Nikki, filed a lawsuit in order to subpoena the business and the production records of the online forum. If they have those records, they can unmask the identities of the users who are hiding behind an anonymous account. But they ran into a wall, and that wall is titled the Communications Decency Act, Section 230. Section 230 is a law that protects internet platforms like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube from liability from content published by its users. I mean, can you imagine if you could sue Facebook every time you got your feelings hurt? But, it's more than that because people do use these platforms to intimidate and harass other users offline. Careers could be ruined just like that after a Twitter mob attacks your reputation. But if anyone could sue these social media platforms for any reason, these companies would constantly be in court and they wouldn't survive. We wouldn't have social media.
But because of Section 230 out in California and because of a pair of incredibly incompetent and stupid judges, they found that Quasi was running a website just like Facebook or Twitter.
So they're not responsible for the content.
Yep.
Right.
Even though he's a willing participant.
Active participant. And even though he runs the website through Cloudflare and bases it here in the US, specifically because doxing isn't illegal here. It is illegal in the EU.
Doxing is illegal in Russia. Figure that out.
Yeah, like they had their hosts. They were hosted in Russia for a while until we reported them for doxing, and then the Russian host booted them. So then they had to come back here, and we have screen grabs of him saying, "No, I put this website here, and it's being hosted here, so you guys can keep doxing Patrick and everyone around him."
There are exceptions to Section 230. The website owners could be held liable in certain situations. For example, if the website owner actively participates or encourages the harassment, they could be held responsible. Additionally, if the website owner fails to take appropriate action after being notified about the harassing content, they could also face some potential liability. But according to Patrick, the website's owner is not just running the forum. Patrick claims he's one of the main harassers. There does seem to be some sort of effort to moderate the harassment. Just recently, one of its most prominent users was booted off the forum for making explicit threats towards Patrick. These guys eat their own. There's also a ridiculous disclaimer on the site. I'll read it to you. This forum is dedicated exclusively to parody, comedy, and satirical content. None of the statements, opinions, or depictions shared on this platform should be considered or treated as factual information under any circumstances. All the content is intended for entertainment purposes only and should be regarded as fictional, exaggerated, and purely the result of personal opinions and creative expression. If any of the discussion on this platform triggers distressing emotions or thoughts, please leave immediately and consider seeking assistance. They even link to the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Long story short, because of Section 230, Patrick Tomlinson lost the case.
So essentially, the judge decided that because of Section 230, their anonymity is more important than our physical safety and well-being and livelihood and everything else.
The court also ruled that Patrick Tomlinson has to pay the website owner's legal fees. Could you believe that?
To the tune of $40K. So now
we have a $40,000 bill.
But you have not been able to identify the person who owns that site?
No. We have the identities of one and possibly two of these people. One we know for sure, his name is...
He uses his real name on everything. He wants to be like...
He thinks this is he ran a podcast
the attention.
About us.
Yeah.
He literally ran a podcast dedicated to stalking us. Actually, the same day that huge pile of mulch was dropped in our backyard trying to block our car in, he flew to Milwaukee and came to our house. He took spy shots of me from across the street while hiding behind a truck. Then he walked down our sidewalk and filmed the front of our house. When he went home, he took the footage of him in front of our house, put it on YouTube, and set it to the song "Somebody's Watching Me." I mean, he's out there.
Well, and
it was even stranger because once he knew where I was, once he knew I was home, he went up to the street to the bar that we had talked about, the one that had the fire, because he knows that we go there all the time. And he sat there for half an hour live streaming himself, sitting and talking to a pair of crocheted voodoo dolls representing my ex-wife and her late husband.
He wants to think he's like the ringleader and that he's really important, but I think he wants to be famous for any reason at all.
Like, and the judge pro tem in our lawsuit case he'd come right out and said during hearings that yes, you're like defamation is happening on this site. Yes, they're being stalked. Yes, they're being harassed. Like, we had all the evidence, proving our case, but it was just because of them misreading the technicality of Section 230. Did they not only get away with everything without any sort of consequences, but then the justice system stuck us with a $40,000 bill. So now we have a subscription fee for being stalked by these people now.
Because now we had to amortize the debt under Chapter 128 in Wisconsin, and we'll have to pay a monthly stipend to them to be stalked.
Where are these payments going to if you don't even know the identity?
They go to him, but they go through his lawyer.
This episode is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one website platform for building your online presence and getting your work out into the world. So here's the thing. I've been podcasting for 8 years now, and one lesson that I've learned the hard way is that you need a home base, somewhere that's yours, not just a social profile that could disappear tomorrow and get buried with the algorithm change. Squarespace is how I think about that. You grab your domain, your name, your show, whatever you want to claim, and then you build around it. Their templates are actually good looking, and you don't need to know how to code. There's a thing called Blueprint AI that walks you through the design process, and you can just pick a template and start dragging stuff around until it feels just right. The other side that I appreciate is the services side. If you do any kind of consulting, coaching events, whatever, you can showcase what you offer, book appointments, send invoices, and get paid all from the same place. You don't have to Frankenstein set up 6 different apps that barely talk to each other. And if you have content that you want to monetize, video, courses, members only stuff, you can gate it behind a paywall and charge a subscription or a one-time fee. It's all built in. So check out squarespace.com/pretend for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use promo code PRETEND to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Again, that's squarespace.com/pretend. Use promo code PRETEND.
My name is Eric Hildeman. I started the Milwaukee Science Fiction and Fantasy League. So around, January of 2022, that's when I became aware of the Patrick Tomlinson situation. There was a article that came out, had this headline, Milwaukee science fiction writer loses in court, or something to that effect. And I was like, wait, Milwaukee science fiction writer, who are they talking about?
When Eric Hildeman realized that Tomlinson was being attacked by internet trolls on this Opie and Anthony forum, he decided to jump in and defend Patrick.
Most of the people are there just for laughs. And, getting laughs at other people's expense, that's how the free speech cookie crumbles. That's fine. Okay, but it's where it goes beyond laughs that, it kind of stops being funny. The trolls started coming after me because, heaven forbid, Patrick get another friend. They absolutely can't stand that. So they targeted my website, started posting a whole bunch of nonsense crap on there. But they also found my parents' funerary websites and immediately posted a whole bunch of lewd, graffiti-like posts on there. And yeah, I see you're shaking your head like that. You just got to think how evil you have to be to do something.
I don't get it.
I mean, this is something that I'm an atheist and I regard that sacred. And these guys just don't get it.
But why do you want to get in this mess to begin with? Why get involved? They didn't even know about you.
If I'm going to build up science fiction in Milwaukee, the situation is right now that Patrick Tomlinson is one of the most prominent guys out there.
But do you think that he eggs them on? Do you think that maybe he's partly responsible?
He is a self-described rabble-rouser. This is very true. And he says a lot of things that are acerbic and acidic even.
I feel like
Yeah.
he's a caricature of everything that the alt-right hates about liberals.
Yeah. Okay. That's one way of looking at it. But for people to say that, he eggs them on, or, he always rises to the bait, therefore he makes us do it. That's pretty much exactly the same logic that a rapist use about, oh, she was dressed scantily, so she was asking for it. No. You're still a rapist. You're still 100% to blame. Own it.
That's how I feel. I think that no matter how public and abrasive Patrick could be about all this, there's nothing that he could say that makes him deserve the harassment and the barrage of threats that has come towards him for the last 5 years.
Barrage or not, if it was just words, okay, then it would be a war of words going back and forth on, a social media site, and that's just the way the free speech cookie crumbles. But it goes much beyond that, of course, because people have swatted him, people have impersonated him online and posted stuff to other people's websites in his name in order to defame him. They have gone after his friends. As soon as I appeared on the scene, they went after me. They've gone after his family members.
You were kind of defending not only Patrick as a sci-fi writer, but really like the sci-fi community in your area. Part of me thinks that you didn't know what you were getting yourself into, right?
A little bit. There was a time when I actually did an email debate with one of them. Patrick warned me not to do it. He was very adamant about it, and I felt I knew what I was doing and plunged into it anyway.
Eric Hildeman was not only defending Patrick Tomlinson, he was defending the whole sci-fi community in Milwaukee as a whole. But why the sci-fi community? The Pests believe that the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Association is a haven for pedophilia. I'll let John Delarose explain.
Patrick S. Tomlinson is one of the biggest lol cows on the internet. He is a SIFWA member, a SJW science fiction writer who's been making failed books for a number of years, and he loves to go harass conservatives on the internet and then claim that he's been harassed when he gets some retaliation for it.
Delarose is a YouTuber and science fiction writer.
I sell more books than Patrick S. Tomlinson, confirmed, because people like it. I don't put any SJW nonsense in there. I don't put any LGBTQIA what the fuck into my books. I just put good quality stories that are fun. I try to keep everything as PG as I can.
Delarose has some advice for Tomlinson.
Patrick Tomlinson has a habit of tweeting the same thing over and over and over again. He loves to reply to people on Twitter, and that's exactly why they come at him. If you don't know how to deal with trolls on the internet, the best way to do so is not to just keep replying to the trolls with something like this. Oh my God. They think that they can get away with just taking down free speech. They think they can get away with harassing conservatives, right-wingers, and Christians out of the spaces of the public square.
So the argument is because you're defending the science fiction community against pedophilia, that you must be a pedophilia sympathizer, right? Like that's the logic.
That's their strange and twisted logic. Yes, there's zero evidence to support that whatsoever. But if I say something positive about, say, for example, Samuel R. Delany, oh, well, then at the very least, I'm a pedo defender, and so forth.
Samuel Delany is a prominent science fiction author, but to the Pests, he's much more than that. They consider him a dangerous pedophilia sympathizer. Was Delany a pedophile?
He said some statements in favor of an organization called NAMBLA.
NAMBLA is the North American Man-Boy Love Association. This organization is exactly what it sounds like. Grown men who actively campaign to have sexual relations with minors.
And he did that back in the 90s. He himself never belonged to the organization. He said some things in support of its newsletter, which he said was very intelligent and intellectual for the time. And since then, he has never backtracked from that. And the reason he never backtracked from that is because he was actually molested himself as a young boy, but because he's gay, he didn't find the experience traumatic. And so now he refuses to characterize it as abuse and refuses to, rescind his statement about NAMBLA. Now, I find that fucked up, pardon my French, but that is the reality of it. Well, that is the one living example that they really have of pedophilia in science fiction. There's only a few other examples. Marion Zimmer Bradley was considered one of the capstones of fantasy writing. And she has, her armor has dimmed since she and her husband, famous coin collector named Walter Breen, they really were abusive to their daughter, Moira Grayland, and she wrote it all in a tell-all book. And for the record, I side with Moira. Okay, what she went through is, unforgivable. And the only other example that they're able to cite is somebody named Kramer, Ed Kramer. And he was one of the founders of DragonCon. And he was known to be a pedophile.
But I mean, okay, so you have some rotten apples in the community, right? Some bad apples.
They want to, basically condemn a community of hundreds of thousands for these 4 examples.
It's kind of like you could say in Catholicism, there's some bad actors. There's in comedy, there's some bad actors in Hollywood. Sure. There's some bad actors. That doesn't mean that the whole industry is a child predator industry, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if any of the pests really are motivated by this pedophilia claim. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. It seems to me that this issue is just used to justify the harassment. But listen, it doesn't matter because as vile and racist as the Opie and Anthony forums are, it's their constitutional right to talk garbage. But free speech can only get you so far. Their freedom of speech doesn't give them the right to send the cops to someone's front door. That's harassment and a waste of our tax dollars. But like Patrick said, swatting isn't illegal in the U.S., but why has it become such a big problem? Well, let's follow the money. Vice magazine recently published an incredible article singling out a messaging app called Telegram. In this app, there's a user known as TorSwats. For just $75, this user will call in a school bomb or a mass shooting threat. And for $50, TorSwat can send the cops to your target's house and have the cops handcuff them and search their homes. Think of it as swatting as a service.
There's this criminal out there that goes by TorSwats who, for 50 or 75 bucks a pop, will swat people for you. So it turns out that he was the one who, for at least the last 10 months, has been swatting us constantly. But it's because our stalkers are paying him to the tune of a couple $1,000s at least at this point. And he's also probably the one that's been making the bomb threats, although we don't have confirmation of that yet. And on top of that, it turns out that TorSwats was under the impression that me in particular, was paying him to swat us ourselves.
So they were impersonating.
So they impersonated me. They set up a Telegram account under my name. They opened a crypto wallet through Gemini in my name and had been paying him in crypto coins to swat us while pretending to be me.
$75.
And he thinks that
it's like insultingly cheap.
Yeah, for $75, $50. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
They paid Norm Macdonald a cameo to tell everyone to continue harassing us, which he did.
Yeah, he did.
No way.
Yeah.
Do you have that?
We got it somewhere.
Hey, this is Norm Macdonald here, and this is a message for all of Patrick's friends. I want you to stop picking on your friend Pat. After all, and I quote, his only crime was that he didn't find Norm Macdonald funny. Wait a minute here. I'm Norm Macdonald. Ha! And I am funny. Please continue insulting that fat loser.
But, I mean, I don't think he knew.
He didn't know what was going on.
No, of course. He doesn't know the extent of it.
I mean, he's dead now, but yeah.
Going back to the swatting, it doesn't seem to be easing up.
And now my elderly parents have been swatted twice. They live 2 hours from here.
In the middle of central Wisconsin, in the middle of nowhere. So like
the cops there didn't know anything about it. And so, they got pulled out of their house at 2 a.m. at 2:30 a.m. with guns pointed at them, and you ordered to have their hands in the air. And like my parents are in their 70s.
In that 7 swattings in 36 hours, they were swatted within that, and I'm not counting that one as part of the 7.
Yeah.
And there was a bomb threat in there too.
Yeah, there's a bomb threat
in that 36 hours. There was
36 hours.
This is every day for us. This is just what our lives have looked like for every day for 5 years. We don't get breaks. We don't get time off for good behavior. We can no longer even relax in our own home because it's been violated so many times.
Well, and I saw those pictures of you at those events in DC and Detroit. I mean, that's creepy. You were in the same room with these guys.
Yeah.
They've come to your house.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how does this end? Here's Eric Heidelman again. Do you think if Patrick and Nikki just stopped engaging with them, this would go away?
I think if they had done that more towards the beginning, that would be, it would be realistic that the trolls would, get bored and move on. It's not a technique that I necessarily approve of. It's better, that they just, stop the abuse in the first place, because if you try to get rid of them by ignoring them, then what they do is they find another victim. They don't stop. They just find somebody else.
Who the hell has that kind of time? Wouldn't you love to have that kind of time?
Yeah.
That you just sit around and torment people?
It's got the time back that we spend fighting these motherfuckers. I'd have 10 books written by
We spend like every day we have to set up some sort of defense, or
it's like a third job. Yeah.
It is. It is, and it's exhausting. And I mean, like this month.
Yeah, and I mean, even this is like time that you should have been doing something else. Like, why do you need to talk about this? It's like, it must be very annoying that this is part of your life.
Yeah.
But no, you asked earlier how it ends. It ends with someone finally taking this seriously enough to go out and find them and arrest them.
Hey guys. So this was supposed to be the last episode, part 3 in the Pest series, but I have been in communication with some of the Pests and the forum's administrator. As you already know, the Pests got a hold of the episodes and they listened to it, they posted it on their forum, and they had a lot to say. So in part 4, which is available right now on Patreon and Apple Podcast, you will get to hear their side of the story. But what's even more interesting is that on August 24th, just a couple days from now, Patrick Tomlinson is scheduled to appear in court for a contempt of court hearing. Now, why is he in contempt of court? Well, because he hasn't made a single payment towards the legal fees of John Doe number 1, the forum administrator. As you probably recall, Patrick Tomlinson sued 60 anonymous posters from the online forum, including the forum administrator, and he lost. And as a result, a judge ordered him to pay the losing side's legal fees. Now that number is about $50,000, and Patrick, like I said, has not paid a cent. I interviewed Patrick and Nikki to find out what their legal strategy is, and you will be surprised to find out what they had to say. This is part 4 in the Pest series. By now, you know that this series is not for kids. Heck, it may not even be for most adults. If you are uneasy with graphic language, discussion of sexual assault, racism, you name it, this one is not for you. Even before I publicly released these episodes on my main feed, the Pests got a hold of the audio files and posted it on their forum. There were more than 700 replies commenting on my interview with Nikki Robinson and Patrick Tomlinson. Within a few days, the administrator of the ONA forums, who is known as Quasi101, sent me an email. I've converted his written response to audio using voice-to-speech AI, so it's not his real voice.
To whom it may concern, this is the current administrator of the ONA forums. I realize that by being anonymous you can't verify my identity yet, but you can email me and I can provide more verification as required. You list yourself as a journalist on your Twitter bio. I hope you take that title seriously. I'm inclined to give you the benefit of the doubt in not contacting me by assuming you weren't sure how to get in touch. To that effect, I'm reaching out now. Are you going to take your claim of journalist in earnest and hear both sides of the story? You've taken the word of a judgment debtor who is currently facing contempt for refusing lawful court orders at face value. You interviewed people on your podcast that accused me personally of serious crimes. crimes with no evidence. As an aspiring journalist, do you think it would be unethical to allow unverifiable claims on your podcast without also allowing the other person any type of rebuttal? I trust you'll do the right thing here as, with all things considered, I have recognized your efforts to be unbiased. Regards, Admin.
I responded, I would love to get your side of the story. Just shoot me a rebuttal. And he wrote,
Well, I'll be damned. I apologize for the original tone in my email if I came across a bit curt, so to speak. There have been several publications who have no interest in my perspective. You've stumbled onto an insane story here, and it's complicated for someone following for years, let alone someone trying to give an unbiased perspective in 90 minutes. Unfortunately, I can't give any audio, though I hope to give my side in the future at some point. There are legal concerns as well as my own safety. I can provide an account fax backed by court documents and archived social media. You don't need to take my word for anything, and you shouldn't. I don't want to go down the route of going point by point through the podcast to refute points. I feel like that will be contentious and lead to unnecessary conflict when you've shown magnanimity yourself. You've been fair so far. I'd like to extend that trust in this way.
So I shot Quasi, the administrator of the site, a list of questions. My first question was, why do you keep operating the forum if you feel that your personal safety is at risk?
Well, it's multifaceted. It's not just about my own safety, although that is a major component. I operate the forum because I believe it serves the function to preserve comedy that is taboo. There is artwork, parody songs, and content that would be lost. The threats of violence by Patrick Tomlinson pose a real risk. Currently, I am confident about my anonymity if that calculus changes that could potentially affect my ability to continue operating the site.
Then I asked, are you or anyone else in your forum responsible for the swatting?
I can understand why you'd ask this, but there's tricky phrasing here. The person answering is in a trap. If they answer indignantly, they seem defensive. If they answer too cavalierly, they come off as not caring. Imagine your boss asks you, are you stealing from the company? The shift here is that there's any reason to believe you were stealing in the first place. If you answered your boss, what evidence do you have of that? Even if you were innocent of stealing, you come across to your boss as defensive. I wanted to point that out for context, but to be fair to you, I won't completely evade your question. There is no reason to believe anyone here is involved in any capacity. I've received no reports regarding discussions of this. There are rules in place to ban anyone encouraging this behavior. As for myself, I can say with certainty that I have never called the police or any agency to direct them to Patrick Tomlinson's house, his relatives, or his friends. I've never contacted him, his family, or his friends. I've never interacted with him in any way. I've never directed anyone to do that. Any mention of doing anything of the sort is swiftly banned.
I asked Quasi, how can he be so sure that no one in his online community is responsible for the swatting?
This seems to be a more nuanced question about certainty. To answer the question, there's an assumption of how we use the word certainty. How certain are you that you locked your door when you didn't forget anything at the supermarket? You've created the list, double-checked it, thought about the last time you forgot something, and taken into account why that happened. Consider a parent who is leaving their child home by themselves for the first time. You've laid down the rules and explained the punishment. You come home and see no evidence of anything wrong. Are you sure they didn't have 80-second little party and refilled your grandmother from the fire pit outside before you came home? No, but you don't have any reason to think otherwise.
I asked, what would it take for this feud with Patrick Tomlinson to stop? Here's what Quasi had to say about that.
I see why you would think that, but your question frames this situation as being a feud. There isn't one. I set up a comedy web forum. I am running a lawful website. He defaulted on a payment, refused to pay a court-ordered judgment, and may be held in contempt at the end of August. To answer your question, there's nothing to end. He pays his court-ordered debt, and I run my website for as long as I have the time and inclination to do so.
Quasi is referring to the fact that Patrick Tomlinson lost the case against Quasi and was court-ordered to pay his legal fees. As of this recording, Patrick Tomlinson hasn't made a single payment. And if he continues to refuse, he could face additional financial penalties and could even go to jail. I'm Javier Leiva, and this is Pretend. Stories about real people pretending to be someone else. I've been in touch with several observers of the ONA forums. They point to several instances where Patrick has made threats to hurt people with his gun, threats to rape someone's mom. They told me that Pat is a serious asshole and is probably responsible for swatting himself. They even sent me security footage of someone spraying graffiti on Patrick Tomlinson's motorcycle. They tell me, look at the video. It's clearly Patrick doing it. Almost all of these people who post on the Opie and Anthony forum are anonymous. All except for one. His name is Daniel Mullen, and he goes by the online alias Somerville Dan. Patrick Tomlinson says, and I quote, that Dan Mullen is among the most obsessed criminals. Unlike most of the pests, Dan is very much out in the open. He even hosts his own podcast where he devotes a copious amount of time to mocking Patrick Tomlinson. Now let's be clear, Dan is not a spokesperson for the group. In fact, he himself has been banned from posting on the ONA forum. So I hopped on a call to get his side of the story.
Yeah, so, I was a fan of the Opie and Anthony show back in the 1990s. Yeah, I was a member of the Reddit forum back when it was the R Opie and Anthony forum. And really, it was like one of the funniest places on the internet. There's all these jokes and characters. And the interesting thing to follow was as the show, the Opie and Anthony show, kind of went downward, it kind of was on this denouement, people started turning against the show and making fun of the hosts and making fun of the guests and picking at, making memes and jokes about it. So it really became less of a fan Reddit subreddit and more of a just nasty jokes, things like a stand-up comedian would do when they're roasting someone, like a big roast session.
You have these anonymous folks on this forum. Really, they are fixated on Patrick Tomlinson and everybody in his orbit, and they enjoy the torture that Patrick Tomlinson has experienced. Would you agree with that, or?
To an extent, I don't know that it's so much enjoying the torment. I think it's just the getting the reaction. It's like a real life Truman Show where you've got this avatar. I know you mentioned on a previous podcast, Patrick like almost represents almost like a caricature of like this online Democratic Party kind of, person who parrots all the talking points. It's like right out of Central Castings. It feels like a character. Like it almost feels like he's not real. These people that text him or tweet him, and I'm not going to condone that necessarily, but you text him and then he responds right away. And he has like copy paste responses. He says you're going to prison. He has these funny little, things that he says. I mean, it's like a game, really. If he had just, and he could still do this too, by the way, if he would just stop responding and stop feeding off of that negative energy, then we wouldn't be talking right now. But he is, for whatever reason, and I'm not a psychologist, I don't want to play that game, but for whatever reason, he just can't let it go. And he keeps kicking the hornet's nest.
But you would admit that this forum has doxed people. This forum has, some of the members have possibly contacted Tomlinson directly. I mean, would you agree that it has gone from a joke to like posting personal information online and contacting him and maybe even physically being in the same vicinity as him?
There's definitely a line, and I myself may have crossed it on, in kind of some of the instigating with Patrick myself. So I'll take a little bit of the blame. There needs to be a separation between the texting and the tweeting, the pranks and the swatting.
I've seen an overwhelming amount of folks posting that they find this hysterical, except for the swatting.
I would say there are very few topics that these people on the forum agree on universally. I would say to a man, the condemnation of the swatting is probably the most universally held belief of anyone. I don't think you'll find maybe one or two people, and they would probably be, talked down to, that find it funny or acceptable in any way, shape, or form. It's unfortunate, the swatting, because, that makes it seem like, okay, there's a criminal thing going on here. Whereas really, there's two rules that I think most of these rascals, I like to call them, abide by. It's like, be funny and do it within the realms of you're not like breaking the law. And Swatting is neither of those. Swatting, it's not funny and it's criminal. I'm 99.9% sure that the swatting is not directly related to the ONA Forums people. Yes, they have done awful things. They've texted pictures to Nikki and her mom and Pat and things like that. You can argue those things, the morality or the whether that's right or wrong. But the swatting, I think, is where the line gets drawn. And I'm supremely confident it did not come from the ONA Forums people.
Well, but I have seen, and I should go back and look at this, but I've seen people like salivating for body cam footage, like waiting for they want to see Pat's reaction when they pull him out of his house and at gunpoint and stuff like that. I mean, there are people that genuinely enjoy that there, right?
One of the questions you asked, have you requested the body cam footage? And I have. I've actually requested it with the Milwaukee Police Department because maybe there's an entertainment or a kind of a gawking factor of it, right? You see something on the side of the road, you want to see what it looks like. But there also, I would love nothing more than to have whoever's responsible be brought to justice and, getting the information out there. Yeah, maybe we can make a joke if he's like on his porch and it looks unfortunate. But at the end of the day, I think we all would love to see it end.
Yeah, and so if it's not anyone on the ONA forum, then who's doing this? I mean, we did mention tour swats, but like, who's making these orders?
I mean, that's the $1 million question. Now, I will say it only takes about 10 minutes to go on to Patrick's Twitter account and see how he talks to strangers. He creates enemies. He jokes that he prides himself on getting on fights online and being a provocateur. There's hundreds of people that know about him. So it could really be anyone. And then, I'm just going to throw it out there. And it's the one thing you can't rule out. There's the chance that he could be doing it himself because he's a person that likes getting attention. And he also can kind of kill two birds with one stone by saying, okay, here are these people that make fun of me. I mean, I listened to your interview with him. He doesn't even open up the potential that it could be anyone but us. He doesn't even talk about the culpability really of the person doing it or the fact that it could be someone else. He just assumptively puts it on us for, I don't know why he's so sure of that because there's really no direct evidence other than the fact that people kind of, make fun of him.
Yeah, but online. I mean, come on. If there was a whole online forum devoted to busting my balls every day and sending, disgusting pictures to my wife and her family and this and that, and I mean, wouldn't that be an obvious conclusion? Whoever's swatting me,
they definitely would be a suspect. Absolutely.
When they say they don't support the swattings, they are lying. These people are pathological, compulsive liars. They are manipulative, and they are covering their asses because they know that if they go on there on that site, because that site's still public, and unbelievably so. I mean, the FBI is watching all this. If they go on there and say, yes, I love swattings, well, guess what's going to be at their fucking door? Like, that's the fastest way to shut down that website, and they all know it. So no, they don't just love the swattings. They are doing the swattings. At least one of them is. We don't have anybody else obsessing over every
who
part
else
of our
would do
lives.
this to us?
It's them. It's always been them.
Dan Mullen insists that this could easily end if Patrick stopped his media blitz and stopped responding to every message and every tweet.
I think he enjoys the attention. I don't think he likes the way he's getting the attention, but I think he likes the attention. I think if people in general stopped bugging him daily like this, I think he would miss it in some ways because I think it gives him a purpose and an attention that he can't find through other avenues.
But is it really that simple?
But why Nikki? Why Nikki? Why get her involved in all this when she doesn't respond? She doesn't engage. You know what I mean? Like, why is she tangled up in this whole mess?
I find Nikki to be a very sympathetic character. I think she's married to someone who is a little bit on the narcissistic side and may have some other issues that he's dealing with. And she's kind of along for the ride. I don't think people engage too much directly with her. I think people have kind of poked fun at her online, related to Patrick.
You don't think that they've contacted her business, customers, try to make her professional life a living hell? I mean, the way she described it?
Some people have done that. Yeah, I think people left comments on like the Google thing or whatever. Most of the attention is focused on Patrick.
Patrick and Nikki disagree.
they've impersonated me. They've harassed me. They've done the contact form thing. They harassed my mother. They threatened to swat me. They threatened to rape me. If I'm a sympathetic character, they are terrible at being sympathetic. That's pretty illustrative.
I mean, Dan himself attacks Nikki's business constantly. Like, he sends messages through her contact form, threatening her, threatening more bad reviews.
Yeah, I mean, I've pretty much identified that Dan is one of the main people that harasses me.
You know, he's one of the ones who impersonates Nikki's mother on all these contact forms. You know, Dan is a liar. Dan is a manipulative sociopath. And he has attacked her. In fact, he may have gone after her more than he's gone directly after me.
Legally, none of this matters because Patrick and Nikki tried to sue Quasi, the forum administrator, and 60 anonymous users of the site and lost in court. And as a result, Patrick and Nikki have to pay the prevailing party's attorney fees, which are around $50,000. In the previous episode, Patrick gave me the impression that he was going to repay the debt in monthly installments. But so far, Patrick and Nikki are refusing to pay. So what changed? I asked Patrick about this decision through text, and he told me it's not a choice. We don't have $50,000. So I'm going to jail for not having enough money to pay a ransom to terrorists. More about this after the break. Here's what I don't understand. I get it. Nikki and Patrick have been through hell. I can't even imagine living one day in their life, let alone having to deal with this day in and day out for 5 years. I have tremendous sympathy for them, and I understand why they tried to sue those who they believe are attacking them. They took a risk, and they lost. Now, a court has ordered them to pay the other party's legal fees, and whether they agree with the court's decision or even the law for that matter, they are on the hook for this money. So why refuse to pay? What's the strategy here? I mean, if he doesn't pay, he could be found in contempt of court and could end up in jail. Here is Dan Mullen again.
So, as you probably know, Patrick sued the ONA forums. He sued 60 John Does, including the administrator of the forum. And
were you included in that, by the way?
I was named as one of the John Does of a tweet that I made that was pretty innocuous, that I would not say was defamation, but yes. So at the time, you're probably going to ask, is it personal, this with Patrick? At the time it was, because I thought I was going to have to get a lawyer and I was going to have to go to court over a tweet that I made. And the biggest mistake that he made in the lawsuit was his fixation on going after the admin of the site. Quasi 101 or whatever name you want to use for him. And he named him John Doe 1. And they basically focused on going after him primarily, thinking that he would just give up information about the users, whether it be IP addresses, email addresses, and then they could use that information to individually sue people for the comments that they made.
But as we know, the judge honored the motion to quash the subpoena and ordered Patrick Tomlinson to pay the other side's legal fees.
And then Patrick would go online. He'd say, I'm not paying he'd go on podcasts. He'd say, I'm not going to pay my harassers. And he fought it and fought it and fought it. So then fast forward 2 years or 2.5 years later, he still hasn't paid any of it.
Here's the thing. Both Patrick and Nikki signed a legal document under oath promising to pay back the debt gradually under a repayment plan. The payments are made to the trustee, who then pays back the other party's attorneys.
Now, legally, he's in a situation where he's really in a corner and there's really no easy way out other than, paying. If I was him, I'd show up with a certified check and start paying right then. Otherwise, it's kind of uncertain where it goes.
So I asked Patrick about this.
The first time we talked, you and Nikki were talking about being on this subscription payment plan, where you had to pay the legal fees of the opposing party and you were going to be on this subscription plan. But sometime between our last conversation, it seems like things changed, or maybe you have a different strategy.
Well, we're not going to discuss our legal strategy because that's still evolving here. But yeah, things changed. Basically, we decided amongst ourselves that we're not going to pay a ransom to the terrorists who are trying to kill us.
Didn't you guys sign a debt agreement promising to repay for the next 3 years a monthly payment of $1,047 a month?
Yes, we did.
And so I know you didn't want to discuss legal strategy, but that's court ordered. I mean, you lost. What's happening to you is terrible, right? But like when it boils down to like a court decision, this is not optional, right? Like you were court ordered to do it. You signed it. So like, why?
The judgment is court ordered, but the
payment plan
was our idea, and we just decided not to go through with it. And then we decided after thinking about it that no, we're going to keep fighting this.
But the time for fighting this seems to be over. I asked Patrick and Nikki if they ever appealed the court's decision.
But the other thing that we were not informed of was our rights to appeal and like the windows to appeal, which we absolutely would have done had we been properly informed of our rights.
So what would you have done differently now knowing that it didn't pan out? What would you have done differently?
Well, it's hard to say because we're both law-abiding citizens. So we just relied on the advice of our lawyers as they worked their way through the process. Now, looking back, they stepped on some landmines. And would a different strategy have been much more beneficial and less risky for us? Yeah, of course it would have been. But there was no way for us to know that ahead of time.
Let me ask you about those landmines. Were you given legal advice warning you that this could go south, that,
No.
you would be, the risk that you were taking was that you would have to pay their attorney's fees? I mean,
no,
we would have never gotten involved in this if we knew that this was a risk.
But you didn't know that was a possibility?
No, we didn't know that was a possibility. I mean, we're not done fighting this, and we aren't in contempt. We simply aren't. The filing that their lawyers put in, for a motion of contempt is, again, filled with lies. It's simply, most of it is simply untrue. And the evidence that they placed in wasn't evidence of us doing anything wrong. It was, in fact, evidence of their continued ongoing obsessive harassment campaign. They do not have a leg to stand on here.
So what happens later on this month when you have to appear in front of court? Like, what do you expect is going to happen?
We expect we're going to tell our side of the story, which is the only side of the story, by the way. That's it.
Let's say you choose not to pay, and you are ultimately found in contempt of court, and you go to jail for this or whatever, or get fines. That doesn't relieve you from the original court order to pay.
The original court order is illegitimate, and we will not pay the people who have made multiple attempts on our lives. It's obscene. We are going to continue fighting this.
As you can see, this is coming to a head. 5 years of escalating battles between the Pests and Patrick Tomlinson has led us to this point. I asked Quasi, the forum administrator, now that Tomlinson is potentially facing jail time over this ordeal, what happens next? Here's what he had to say.
This seems to assume that there is a choice from my perspective. I continue to run my website. As for Tomlinson, regarding his legal woes, his attorney would likely be the best person to ask about the path forward.
Here's Dan Mullen again.
And do you think that he either pays Quasi, the site administrator, or he goes to prison, or both, or whatever? Does this end the feud? Is that enough for the Pests to claim victory, or does it go on?
If he stopped fighting and he paid off the debt, then I think people would leave him alone. I really do think that.
You really think that? You really think that?
I mean, I think there would still be some people. I mean, I think at this point, it's kind of reached a critical mass where there's always going to be people that are going to be making fun of him online. What he needs to do is not go on those websites and read every comment made about him. He needs to probably, I mean, if I was him or giving advice that he would listen to, I would say, maybe you stop tweeting for a few months, or maybe you stop responding to tweets or texts and you just block everyone and don't engage and just shut it down.
But he's saying he's getting daily calls and daily text messages from people on the group. So it's not like he could just shut it off.
But in 5 years, he's never tried to just not respond or not engage. He always responds. And I think that he's a very stubborn person. And I think he just feels like he has to set the record straight somehow.
And it's true. It seems like Patrick Tomlinson can't resist responding to these harassing messages. Every time someone sends him a message, he responds with the same canned answer. Quote, "Your life is already over, stalker. Enjoy prison." Every single message. Just read his Twitter feed. The Pest even interviewed Patrick Tomlinson for several hours, posing as a Huffington Post reporter.
Hey, Patrick, I think I lost you there. What's up?
Yes, sorry about that. I was coming in and out of the building that has a bunch of steel in it.
Okay, I was just going to say that I spoke with my supervisor about getting in contact with you. She says that you're a fat faggot with bitch tits, so we're going to have to cancel the article.
Oh, well, the problem with that, sweetie, is that we already figured that out.
You already figured out that you're a fat faggot with bitch tits?
At this point, most of us would hang up the call, but no, not Patrick. Patrick decides that it's a good idea to continue engaging with this prankster for another 20 minutes.
You stupid little piece of shit. You have nothing to say today.
You're fat.
I am speaking to you now.
Fuck yourself, nigga.
Good boy. Good boy. You actually managed to shut your fucking mouth for a couple of seconds.
Oh, you didn't hear that?
Work on that. You should
Fuck
work
yourself,
on that,
nigger.
Sean. You should do that all the time, Charlie.
Even the prankster doesn't understand why Patrick keeps responding.
Mentally healthy people don't act out the way you do. Mentally healthy people don't pretend to be journalists.
Mentally healthy people wouldn't react like this to a prank call, you fat faggot.
Your fucking mouth, child.
I'm kind of surprised at the fact that you respond to every single message, every single tweet. And you have these like formulaic responses, but why are you responding? Stalker 101. You don't respond to the stalker. Like, why?
Because they don't get to set the narrative. They don't get to go out here and tell lies about us every day and try and ruin our reputations. No. Period.
Isn't that rewarding them? These people are obsessed with you.
Yes, they're obsessed with you.
Yeah, but responding to people isn't illegal, and telling people to fuck off is not illegal.
Oh no, it's not illegal, but is it smart? Like, wouldn't you?
It is.
Like, have you ever taken a hiatus in responding? Like, have you ever tried that?
Javier, this is not trolling. We really need this to get across to your listeners too. These people are not trolls. Don't feed the trolls does not apply to our situation. It's actually very bad advice. Just like the people that just tell us to up and move or, change our phone numbers. This is all bad advice for this situation. Okay.
But have you tried it?
Yes, we have. Okay. Well, the first thing that they did to us, the first thing that they did to me was mass false report my Twitter account. I was permanently suspended for Twitter for 11 months back in 2018 and 2019. I literally could not respond to them. What did they do? They created dozens and dozens of impersonation accounts so that they could go out on Twitter and try and bring in my followers, tricking them into thinking that they were actually me, so that they could then go on these tirades of sexual harassment and racism and homophobia. No, ignoring them does not work. They don't just move on. These aren't trolls. This is a dedicated criminal cyberstalking community. Ignoring them has no effect. We've tried ignoring them for weeks and sometimes months at a time. And what do? They double and triple down.
Nuts.
They go bonkers and they start attacking other people in our orbit and attacking our families. No, not responding does not work.
This whole thing is so juvenile. It's like a schoolyard fight that's gone on for 5 years. The Pests insist that they mock Patrick because he's violent. and he was once arrested for threatening to kill his pregnant wife. They hang on this police report as their motivation for going after Tomlinson.
I had to do like a double take because you obviously you read it. I was shocked. And I knew that once I shared that was kind of a game changer. It kind of puts Patrick in a whole different light. Now, I will say that is not to, make an excuse for things that people have done. And I don't want to like retcon everything because I only got this, like in the last year. So that's where I'm getting at, because it's like a lot of people on the forum, they use this report as a reason like, hey, we don't like this guy and this is why, but you just recently discovered that, right? So it's like you're retroactively justifying the harassment, right? Correct. I think in some ways people, okay, well now this justifies everything that we did because he's a bad person. And, now he did it 10 years ago. You could even say like, hey, at what point do you just, people, you let things go. But I think it also, when you read it, I think it speaks to the character things. I could never imagine doing that. Anyway, to your point, yes, it came out just recently in the last year. So some people will say, okay, well, that makes it okay that everything we've done. But I think, I don't think that that's a fair representation because people were doing that just when they thought he was just a lol cow, as people say, like a person online who is just kind of a colorful character.
Do you believe that Patrick Tomlinson is a pedophile or associates himself with pedophiles?
No. I think that's one of those things where people are just, I know you interviewed his friend, Eric Hildeman, the sci-fi guy. And I think some people like to, paint the dots that, oh, he's in the Sci-Fi Writers Association and sci-fi has these problems. As you astutely pointed out, you could say the same thing about the Catholic Church. I'm Catholic. Maybe there is some institutional issue that needs to be worked out, but you can't paint everybody with that brush. That's not fair. So no, I don't think that he's a pedophile. I think anyone that does that, that's more of a, like they're trying to get a rise out of him or something like that.
So it's really not the pedophilia. It's not the police report in itself. At the end of the day, it really just boils down to that Patrick Tomlinson is just an easy target, right? For this group.
Yeah, I think he feeds the beast, so to speak. The key thing that he does is he responds every time. He's physically incapable. Once again, I don't know the reason, but he can't go a day without tweeting or responding. Patrick sort of filled this void, this vacuum of a character that's loosely related, but not really, just somebody that they found online. And I know the original sin or the initial contact was that Norm Macdonald tweet, which, okay, that's silly. Like 5 years of going back and forth over a Norm Macdonald tweet.
Nobody likes Norm Macdonald that much. Not even Norm Macdonald.
No, but I will say people do like Norm Macdonald on the board. So people were a little insulted that. But really, it wasn't the tweet. It was the responses to the tweet.
Right.
So like, for instance, someone responded and said, I'm sorry, who are you? Excuse me, who are you? And Patrick responded to this person. And this was the tweet that got posted on the ONA forums board. Patrick responded to the person, I'm someone with 10,000 more followers than you. So my thoughts are more important than you, or something along those. This very like haughty, kind of arrogant, smug response. Smug is the word that I would get. He has this smugness to him that is very off-putting, that makes him a natural target of derision. And then he went on the board. He instigated people. He filed DMCA claims, you could say rightly or wrongly. And then the message board got taken down and people were like, okay, well, he wants to keep fighting with us. All right, well, we'll keep fighting back with him. And that's kind of been
it's just kind of snowballed.
Two stubborn groups that just nobody would back down.
Patrick sued the 60 John Does in order to reveal their identities. But there's one John Doe whose identity has always been publicly known, and that is Dan Mullen.
And you mentioned Dan Mullen by name, and that you felt pretty confident that's his true identity. A, because he's publicly out there all the time. But why didn't you name him in the lawsuit if that was the whole purpose of the lawsuit, was to identify these people, and you actually knew his identity? Why didn't you name him publicly?
We didn't I mean, we had heard Dan Mullen's name at that point, but we weren't certain of his identity at that point. They were already framing innocent people, trying to get us to go after them instead of the real people. And so at the time, we didn't know. We thought that Daniel Mullen could very easily be one of these psyops, just an innocent guy whose identity had been stolen by these people. But that was 3 years ago. So no, Dan Mullen is the real thing. And he's crazy. He is dangerously crazy. This is the guy who last October flew from Boston to here in Milwaukee so that he could take spy shots of me while hiding behind a truck across the street from our house. He then filmed our house from the sidewalk and went back and put, footage of our house up on YouTube set to the song "Somebody's Watching Me."
Patrick and Nikki say that Dan Mullen even replicated Patrick and Nikki's vacation photos.
That was him in Munich, Germany. Those were pictures from our honeymoon.
Yeah, Munich. And we managed to find our hotel. We stayed in this specific hotel, and they found it just based on the pictures. They found the restaurant. Well, the restaurant name was in the pictures, but yeah, they went and did a little tour of Munich to recreate what we did on our honeymoon.
From 2017, he went to another country to recreate some of our honeymoon photos. The man's insane.
I've never been contacted by law enforcement, and my name is out there, and I've engaged with Patrick. I know some other people as well. They've never been in, I would have figured if, someone, in the FBI or the Milwaukee Police Department had questions, I would be happy to answer them. I've got nothing to hide, and I would love them to get to the bottom of it.
All right, so some of the feedback that I have received, and I haven't received a whole lot, right, was that, that my listeners were horrified, obviously, naturally, by what both of you have experienced. I mean, horrified. They can't even fathom that this is going on. But some of my regular listeners have been disgusted by the approach that you had towards law enforcement.
Never come to this house again. You personally never come to this house again. You personally never.
They couldn't believe that despite your frustration that is very valid, they couldn't believe that it escalated to that point.
Here, 27 times, 4 times today.
Come on.
Try to have a better day, sir. Fuck you.
Well, once your listeners have had their home swatted 7 times in 36 hours and assault rifles pointed at them repeatedly, half a dozen times or more, then they can be in a position to explain to me how I should react to the police when they yet again come out to our home, acting on behalf of the people who are trying to kill us. I'm sorry, I'm a human being. I have emotions, and my frustrations got boiled over. I mean, the video that you were referencing where I was in a verbal altercation with the police, that was the 4th time that day we'd been swatted. 4 times. We were swatted at 7 a.m. We were swatted again at 11. We were swatted at 1. My elderly parents who live 2 hours away were swatted at noon that day. And then at 9 p.m. at night, while my wife is home alone, they come for the 4th time that day. And the 27th time total, after this has been going on for 9 months, and again, they break out assault rifles and are pointing them at us. It's unacceptable. And the fact that I lost my cool, it just reflects the fact that, again, this was the 27th time. It was the 4th time that day. And if your listeners who want to, criticize my reactions to the police terrorizing us, then they have more patience than I do. And good for them.
I get it.
Sir, you do not get to talk like this.
Yes, I do. This is the 27th time.
The video, which you're listening to right now, aired on a news piece about the Tomlinson saga. It shows Patrick surrounded by officers as they're trying to cuff him.
No. Hands behind your back, sir. Put your hands behind your back. That's enough.
The video was shot from a distance at night, so it's a little hard to tell exactly what's happening. Patrick appears to pull his arm away in order to prevent the officers from restraining him. His arm flew up in the air, and many of the pests believe that Patrick was swinging at the officer.
Right now, if you get all of your fucking hands off of me. Relax. Get all of your fucking hands off of me. You put those cuffs on, it's going to be $1 million loss.
One of the comments that we've seen on the video where Patrick walks up on the sidewalk and starts yelling at the police, one of the comments is that, you can only talk to the police that way because of the color of your skin. And I just want to point out that I completely agree with that. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because it should be a point of note that people who are white should talk to the police if they are doing something wrong and should be able to voice that. I mean, all people should, but if we're going to use white privilege for this, it's going to be to tell the cops to fucking settle down.
So you're basically saying you acknowledge that you have that privilege because like somebody of color couldn't get away. I mean, could end up dying for standing up to the police.
Absolutely. There's no question about that.
But you're saying in this case that you're exercising it because that's a tool that you have at your disposal.
Because who else is going to be able to stand up to the cops like that? So people are saying I tried to punch one of the cops. I didn't try to punch one of the cops. I got my arm out of the way of one of the cops trying to grab my wrist. I didn't swing on one of the cops. I wasn't violent with them. Was I loud and angry? Yeah, you're damn right I was.
Patrick and Nikki told me that it's been a month since their last swatting, and their relationship with the Milwaukee police has improved. They even have a direct line to call in case they have a legitimate emergency. So, how does this end? I honestly have no idea. It may never end. Who knows? I promise that this will be the last episode on this topic. This whole thing is ridiculous, and I'm sure that we've all lost brain cells trying to understand it. Patrick may actually end up going to jail over this. If he does, I'll tweet about it. But this is it for me. It's time for some other news outlet to pick up the baton. Here's Dan Mullen one last time.
I wouldn't expect your audience to be sympathetic to any of these forum people or the things that they say or they do or how they've engaged with Patrick. I wouldn't expect it. And I would expect them to probably be more sympathetic to Nikki and Patrick. However, I think the more you kind of peel the onion back, I think it's a little bit more of a level playing field than maybe at first appears.
I don't even know how you guys do it. Like, I really don't know how. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you stay together. I don't know how you haven't been driven mad.
Well, we're certainly not in peak mental health. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it would be impossible to go through an experience like this and not be, and not be changed and touched by it. I mean, we both exhibit symptoms of CPTSD at this point. We don't sleep as well as we should. I probably drink more than I should, but it's not. We don't have the choice. It's us or them, and we're not going to be the ones who end up losing our lives over this.
All right, that's all I have for this week. Stick around because I'm working on some new material. Talk to you soon.